Welcome back to Made by J&D. I'm going to continue disassembling what's left of the fire truck frame here. Just got the fuel tank, the front steering gear, the front and rear axles, spring perches. And then I hope to get into the reconstruction phase where I start trying to figure out how to put the front subframe of that motorhome onto this frame here. I think this fuel tank is, who knows, 50 gallons, 40, 50 gallons. Made of pretty heavy gauge steel. There's bracketry and stuff that will just unbolt here, and the whole sector comes off. And it looks like that was all put on as a unit. There's no way I can get the sector off on its own, which is fine. I'll take this bar off here again at the bottom. The problem is, how do I get it off of this here? This is the pitman arm. This bar goes into a valve here. And I guess I can try to take that off, but that still leaves the cylinder in place. And I really need the cylinder off of this pitman arm. So what do I take off? I don't know if I can break this ball joint that's in there. Could try, I guess. For now, I'll take this bar off on the front, get rid of the steering sector. Okay, there's 2 bolts on the bottom, on the inside, 2 bolts here, 2 bolts there, 6 bolts. That's just kind of pinched in there. Right, now what? It's a castle nut, but it doesn't have a, oh yeah, it does. It's on the back. It's got a split pin. Yeah, once again, I'm surprised. That actually came free. Can I lift this thing now? Sheesh. Let's get this truck frame onto the lift. Looks like I've got a bit too far forward though, so I have to bar it back. Get it more central. I don't know if there's probably a bit of difference between the weight of the axle and dual tires. Let's take a look at that again. It's halfway between axles right now. Let's do it. Let's just go to where it is. I think this fire truck had been used for something else after it was retired as a fire truck. The frame has been damaged. It's not straight. It's going like this. Plus, there are brackets here that have been welded on later. These are not original. Unfortunately, this particular fairly heavy channel iron is welded to the spring perch. And that's, I don't know if I can cut that off. Might be easier just to cut the frame. I don't think I need it all anyways. I hate to do that because you never know. I might need as much frame as I can get. For now, I've been looking at these pins. I think I might be able to remove a bolt here and here. And those are clamping those pins in. If I can move these pins, I can get to that one on the rear. I can get to this one. They're made to get, have access to push out. So I'll take these bolts out and see how far that goes. All right, what chance do I have of getting these pins out? I think I have a 50-50 chance. That's working. I'm going to have to lower this to the ground, I think. Huh. Yay! These shackles are not like the ones in the rear. Those were forged in one piece. These are two-piece. And I think all I have to do is take this, it's like a chain link. You take this link off of here. I might have to, whoop. Yeah. I can't take the front axle off yet until I get my measurement. Now, I don't know what measurements I need exactly. I know that the cab has a relationship to the tires, and the tires have a relationship, you know, to the fender wells and how they fit. So I need at least a center line. I'll need to have locations of these mounts for the cab, which really could change, I guess. Up underneath, it's very, you know, very agricultural hardware up underneath the cab. I can put those mounts anywhere probably. But doesn't mean I need to ignore this because it might come in handy. So a center line of the axle, the height of this point, and all these mounts are roughly the size, roughly the surface of the frame here. So from here to the floor, from center line to these, how far apart they are from each side, and the frame and all that. And then when I get those measurements, I can jack the frame up and wheel the axles out from underneath it, I think. Okay, I'm no longer worried about where the axles are in relation to the hoist because they're off. So all I have to do, well, they're not off actually. I've got those pins to take out yet. Anyways, before I do that, I'm going to lower the hoist and position the frame so that it's centered on the hoist or on the lift. Okay. This should come apart now. That's out. That's out. That's free. Come on, you can do it. That airbag on that side has a slow leak, so I just pumped it up now. And they're the same pressure side to side. And that is a little bit low in the, yeah, it's high on the back, same as that frame was right now. Let's see what the differences are. This sits 13 inches off the ground in the back. On the fire truck frame, the wide part is 10 1/4 inches on the web on the outside, top to bottom. The narrow portions, on the front and on the rear, are 6 1/2, top to bottom, on the outside. Working this out in my head, and it's probably not going to be that good, but close enough. If I had that frame level, and I had those rear wheels on the fat part of that web at 10 1/4 inches, that roughly gives me 4 inches at the top front there, that will raise this 4 inches. All right, facts and figures. Oh, well, the objective is to take the rear bogies, air ride suspension, and the front subframe, the entire front subframe, motor, everything in one unit. It unbolts from the frame here. Good. I'm not going to touch the front other than to make it mechanically in good shape. But everything between the bogies and the front subframe, I'm going to have to change because I wanted a heavy-duty frame to make my big pickup and to mount the fire truck cab. I like the proportions of that cab. I always have since I was a little kid. It's a big, massive cab, had these big tires. Anyway, the tires and everything, they just fit. They just look right to me. Those are 40-inch tires on that fire truck, and they're made to fit the wheel opening, the fender, and the relationship to the cab and all that is it just looks good. But for me to maintain that when I make this vehicle, I have to be kind of clever. How do I keep that proportion of the cab and the front tire size when I'm starting with this, which these tires are smaller, much smaller. In an earlier video, I'd said that these tires were 27 inches high. Well, I guess my eyes were screwed in crooked and I wasn't looking right. I've actually measured correctly here, and these tires are 30 inches high. Still, that's a 10-inch diameter difference between these tires and the fire truck tires, i.e., how they fit the wheel opening on the cab. So I have to use a bigger tire to maintain that proportion, on the front at least. The back, the other objective of this pickup truck is to have a low bed height. You see on TV or people put these lift kits on trucks. Well, they're going for a look, and that's fine. But I want to have this for a purpose. I want to be able to easy load, easy offload. I can step up into it without, lift things into it without needing a crane. Well, right now, this frame is about the right height. You can step up into the bed will be a little bit higher, but you can still step up into it. So that's one of my objectives, and that's why I want to keep the back tires smaller. These are 16.5-inch rims, 30-inch tires. I can change them later if I need to, bigger, smaller, I don't know. But these are still good tires. They have very little use on them. And 16.5 rims are not very easy to find tires for anymore. If I ever had to change them, I'd go to a different rim size. But for now, I'll just reuse these tires. But the front, however, that's a different thing. This frame is sitting level, more or less. It's a little bit rear high right now. The air suspension on this is about ride height, maybe a little bit high. It puts the frame of this about 12 inches off the ground. This is level, 12 inches off the ground. Now, if I were to put some bigger tires on the front, all of a sudden your frame is going to come higher in the front, and that's not what I want. I can't do that. By happy coincidence, that truck frame, you can see it necks down on the ends, but in the middle it's wider. Also, by lucky coincidence, the front subframe is 6 inches here. On this piece, it's 6 inches top to bottom. On the inside of this neck down portions, it's 6 inches. This frame will I can press it right together and bolt it together, no problem. I don't have to do anything with that. That's terrific. Also, what I just found out, where the web on the outside of those neck down portions is 6.5 inches. But on the wide portion, that's 10.25 inches. Okay, so it's 3 3/4 inches bigger, higher web. Okay, and here's the happy coincidence part. Those bogies are supported by a central unit. They're hinged off the center. Right between those tires is a central mount. And they bolt to the bottom of the frame. So, that's great. I can bolt those to the bottom of that wide web. And it effectively puts these tires 3 3/4 inches further down from the top of the frame. At the end of but on the other hand, the front of it necks down, and it's all level across the top on that fire truck. And that actually brings these front tires up 3 3/4 inches. I can go in radius, so I'm going in radius now from a 30-inch tire diameter, that's a 15-inch radius. Now the radius will be, what did I write down? 18.75, 18 3/4 inches radius. That's the size tire I can put on there and maintain the ride height. And that works out to be a 37.5-inch diameter tire. I think that's maintaining those proportions of that wheel opening just fine. So that's how I'm going to go with this. The front tire can be taller, and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do any cutting or shutting or nothing. I can just bolt stuff together. The one complicated thing, and that's going to be the hardest thing I have to accomplish. This frame is, I better not lie to you again. Where's my tape measure? This will probably be different from what I've said before. "64.5 inches wide. The frame on the fire truck, 33.5 inches wide. So that's the hard part. I have to spread those frame rails apart. I'm hoping, I'm not going to use that entire frame, and I'm thinking I will join this front subframe to the back of that. That's the back of that truck frame. And I have to cut the end of it off because there's some things there I don't want. It's too long anyway. I'm going to be cutting off the parts that neck down, and that gives me all the material that I need to then spread the frame out, to spread those frame apart. Now, it's only given me 2 cross members. I still have to come up with something else to, there's going to be, this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cross members. And, knowing that they're very light, they got holes in them and all. A lot of the strength on this motorhome was from the shell. The shell was pretty rigid and strong by itself. That's why this frame could be so light. But I want to be able to use the actual weight capacity of these bogies. This is the VIN number plate from the front of the motorhome. It's telling me a VIN number, but the other things it says, that vehicle, 26-foot motorhome, empty, I'm guessing, it says gross vehicle weight 7,500 pounds. I'm thinking that's no fuel, no nothing. I don't know, it seems pretty light to me. But the other 2 measurements on here, the maximum front end weight at the ground, 4,200 pounds. I can load up the front axles here, 4,200 pounds maximum. Well, it's going to need a lot of that just for the cab, because that cab's pretty heavy. It's going to be sticking out forward. And the rear, maximum weight at the rear, 11,700 pounds. Anyways, this frame is, the suspension components on here, I can have a total of 15,900 pounds maximum on these suspension components and tires and all that. Well, that's pretty good. That'll give me a good heavy-duty pickup that I'm looking for. I won't use all of that. I don't know how long to make this truck. An 8-foot bed would be, well, an 8-foot bed wouldn't give enough room between the front of this tire and the back of the front tire. So I have to figure out, make some other decisions like that. How long, how much distance between the bogies and the front axle. And once I get that done, I can figure out how much of that frame to chop off. I'm just looking at the cross members that are on the motorhome frame. And I reminded myself that the motorhome doesn't have coil spring suspension. It does have torsion bar front suspension. Torsion bar is this member here. And that one is to the end, for me to make this work out, that's 33 inches to the back side of a bracket that's holding this. I'm going to reuse that bracket, but I'll be reusing it inside that frame. And it may never get there. But still, like I've been saying, this is an exercise. It's fun to figure out to see if I can make it work. Thanks for sticking with me so far. If you want to see more of this build, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.